Our first order of business tonight is to approve or amend the agenda. And before we go to the approval of the agenda, I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to the agenda. I would like to pull the names of Nicole Welch and Jay Marino from the personnel action tonight and have that be a separate motion. And I'll make a motion to that effect. Dennis, a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
And we'd
Yep.
like to make one addition to the consent agenda as well. We'd like to add Andrea Fiola, who is an art teacher who we'd like to appoint this evening so that we can kind of start her 30-day clock. She's currently an art teacher at Leroy, and if we were just able to hire her, we're excited about it, but we need to, and I apologize for the walk-on, but we needed to get her in because otherwise we'd have to wait till our January meeting, and then it'd be 60 days before we could get her on board. So we want to add, and you have a document on your, you should have a document in front of you that identifies that. So we're looking to add her to our consent agenda for approval this evening. Thank you.
Could I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Carla, second. Pam, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Do we have, okay. Next is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Jeremy, a second. Phil, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I thought you said for the agenda.
I did. I'm sorry. You-
So I approved the agenda. Are you actually asking about the minutes?
I am. Let's see, yeah. We'll do it later, under the consent agenda, Phil. It's under the consent,
For the minutes?
yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
then I'm on board.
Okay. At this time, on our agenda is the time for public comments. We would ask if you have comments for the board that you come up and use the microphone here in the middle. We ask that you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have anything that is written, we would ask that you give it to the clerk. This board values public comments, but I would like to remind everybody that this is a meeting in public. It is not a public meeting. And we would ask that any comments or questions that a certain level of civility be maintained. At this time, do we have anybody who wishes to make public comment? Jack?
Okay, my name is Jack Donovan. I live at 645 Ontario Drive. I had 2 kids who graduated from Wayne. My wife taught at Wayne. One graduated with Foster Miller. And I'd just like to talk to you tonight. I really appreciate this opportunity. I have been working, my committee and I have been working on something to recognize Bob Viviano. He is the one, all of you don't remember, but he's the one that started the musicals at Wayne Central. Prior to him, they just had sort of community things with adults and kids and stuff like that. But he started in 1970, and he went all the way through to his retirement, I think was 98. Did all of you get that little thing that, yeah, I sent you? It's all in there, and I know I'm reiterating myself, but I just think he's a deserving man, and my committee and I would just like to work with you in recognizing his achievements. So that's all I got.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jack. Do we have any other public comments? Jerry?
Jerry Myler, 6106 Lincoln Road. I wasn't going to comment tonight other than to say, wish the board a Merry Christmas and nice holiday season. I would like to ask one thing after reviewing the board packet today. I'd like to see change order 19 removed from the consent agenda and reconsidered. This board approved a resolution at the September 11th meeting stating that the cost of the lights to be replaced was, and there was a dollar amount quoted in the resolution. There was no mention of any additional work or other things. It was, this money will be credited, and the change order 19 today does not reflect that same amount. Thank you, and have a nice holiday.
Thank you, Jerry. Any other public comments?
Patricia Woodard. I'm a current parent of a kid in high school and one that graduated last year, and I live at 6044 County Line Road. I just had a comment about the German exchange field trip. I think it's a wonderful program. My son got accepted at Alfred University because of that. It was his first choice. They thought it was very awesome that he actually spent 3 weeks and lived in Germany with a family. They said that many schools don't offer it anymore. And since then, he's blossomed. He actually wants to graduate and go back to Germany. And I think it's just a wonderful experience. We had a wonderful experience with the German exchange student. I actually miss him. I'm keep in contact with his family every day, at least 3 times a year. I just sent him a Christmas card. So I just wanted to give my opinion that I think that's a wonderful program, and I hope Wayne continues to do it.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Please.
Hello, I'm Patricia Dombrowski. I am a teacher at Wayne Central, and my daughters also attend at Wayne Central School. One was a graduate in 2012, the other in 2014. And they both participated in the German exchange program. I think it's one of the best programs that Wayne offered my students, my children. There were just invaluable experiences, things that you can't learn in the classroom. I remember one of the stories that came back with us to tell us was when Julie, my younger daughter, she was only actually in 9th grade at the time when she went. So it was a big step for us as parents to send her, but when they got off the train in Stuttgart, she decided she was going to be brave and use her German and actually speak to another German in German, and she ordered a pretzel. And she was a little taken aback because they asked her if she wanted coffee too, and that's not something that we do in this country. You don't get coffee with everything that you order, and she didn't know what to say, so she said, ja, or whatever you say in German. I don't know German. And she ended up giving the coffee to Frau Green because she doesn't drink coffee, but she didn't know what to do. So just those type of things you can't experience in a classroom. So definitely invaluable experiences. And just being able to use that German language in a really authentic setting was really, really important to both of them. They enjoyed the touring of the country, the relationships they made with the exchange students. They also continue today. We actually did the program twice. My girls went once, but the second time we just hosted a student. And I would recommend that to anyone as well who lives in the district who has children, if they can't go, to host as well. Julie was unable to go her junior year because she didn't want to miss things like all-county band and the prom and things like that. It interfered with. So she had already been once, so she decided that we would still host, and that was just as wonderful as an experience just to have the student at our home as well, because there's so many more German students who want usually to come, and there's not enough people to host. So that was a good experience. So while we still are in contact with both we actually had 3 students, because the year that both my daughters went, we had host 2 students, and then the year when Julie was a senior, we hosted 1 student. And I would just like to speak to Frau Green's expertise. I felt so comfortable sending my kids to Germany with her. And as I stated, Julie was only a freshman at the time, too, so she didn't have much worldly experience, and I felt very comfortable sending her with Frau Green. Everything was so organized. She kept in contact very well with the parents. We knew we had agendas. We knew where they were. They were able to contact us when they were in Germany through, I think it was Facebook, messaging, whatever the case may be. And the money was handled very well. We actually were returned some of what they did not spend or use. was returned to us at the end, so that was a nice little surprise. So it actually cost less than we thought. And the whole thing was just very well organized and a wonderful experience, and I'd recommend it to anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? We do not have a student representative report tonight, so we will go to board member comments. Do we have any board member comments? Dennis?
Yeah, I'd like to see put on the agenda for the future, a discussion on the boards, or the LED boards for signage out in front of the schools. Also, I'd like to see if we could get Chris Bourne to present to us a presentation he did for the last school district he came from on the the turf fields. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Any other board member comments? Matt?
Pam, Ron, and I attended the Fort County School Board meeting on December 3rd. The presentation was given by Tim Krummer, the Executive Director of NYSBA, and Stephen Eubing, professor at the U of R Warner School, and recently appointed the superintendent of Rochester City School District's East High School, which sounds like a pretty big job. The presentation was about the proper roles and responsibilities of the school board and the superintendent. PowerPoint presentation was given by Tim, and then a real-life comparison was provided by Stephen as appropriate. Short version is that the role of the superintendent is like that of a corporate CEO, and the board's role is like that of the board of directors, with the board providing goals and policies, the what and the why. The superintendent then responds with a recommendation of how to accomplish said goal or policy. The board then will either approve or not approve funding for the goal or policy, then is back to the superintendent to execute the plan to achieve the goal or policy. And that's it.
Thank you, Matt. Pam?
As Matt mentioned, he, Ron, and I went to the Four Counties dinner, and one of the things that I'm finding valuable with that is we get to talk to other board members from other districts. And, of course, being in a superintendent search, that's one of the first questions we ask. And one of the things that this particular group that we sat with, they had just gone through, well, they've been through several superintendent searches in the last few years, so they had a lot of expertise to share with us, but a couple of things that they mentioned were no question should go unasked. Don't think there's any silly question to ask the candidates, that you can find out valuable information. If it's a question you have, that it should be asked. And just to make sure that you go and visit their place of work, and if you network and find anybody who knows them, talk with them, ask questions, all information is valuable. And that's basically what they came away with.
Do we have any other board member comments?
I do have one other thing I forgot. I got to attend the Free Will concert the other night, which was pretty good. It's amazing what these little kids could do already, and it's so funny to watch their intensity and their counting. And it's like, I mean, my hat's off to them. I couldn't make it to the OP one, but the Free Will one was very good.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other board member comments? I do have a comment as a board member. One of our board members recently completed his bachelor's degree. And I will tell you that he completed his bachelor's degree with a much higher grade point average than he ever experienced while he was a student at Wayne Central High School. But on behalf of the Board of Education, we would like to present a small token of appreciation to Phil on completing his bachelor's degree. And we wish him the best of luck in the master's degree. Yes, absolutely. No.
That would be a pen, Phil.
Thanks.
And now we'll turn to
I'm sure there'll be some bad jokes later. Thanks.
We'll turn to the superintendent's report, or do this first?
Yeah, I think we want to do that.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Nope. Before we go to the superintendent's report, I would like to welcome Jeff Beach as the Performing Arts Center and Broadcasting Studio Technical Director and Coordinator. Jeff has worked for many years at WXXI in a variety of related positions. His most recent title was Client Service Coordinator, Operations Technician, where he creates multimedia packages suited to clients' needs: TV, radio, web print, and online interactive. He also served as Master Control Operator, Engineer, and Producer, giving him experience with camera operations, lighting, audio mixing, and graphics. He is also the local maintenance and support person for VideoLinks TV, ReadyCam remote video system for the University of Rochester. This system allows guests to appear live on television from a studio on campus while the technology is remotely controlled in Boston, Massachusetts.
Let me see if we can get Jeff sneak right up here right now. We wanted the board, we're introducing you to two key employees tonight. Jeff, have a seat there. I know we wanted the board to meet Jeff because you're going to see him around a lot. He's going to be helping us out in the PAC. You know, the PAC is very active. We got a lot of activities going on there. As Dennis just mentioned, one of the concerts. So we just wanted you to put a name with a face. If you have any questions for Jeff, now's the time to put him on the spot because he's going to be working pretty quickly.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Jeff.
I'd like to look about 25, 30 pounds thinner.
No problem.
Tall order.
You'd have to make you taller.
I'm actually really happy to be here. My wife is a school teacher. She's been for about 8 years now in the Rochester City School District. So I am familiar with a lot of late nights and meetings and the like. And I actually just came from the Rochester City Council meeting. They have their committee meetings once a month on Thursdays. And this setup is actually very amazing. You guys should be very proud of yourself. The city isn't as open to the public as you guys are. You know, the fact that you have the PowerPoints displayed, and it's wonderful access for the community. So you should be very proud of yourself. And I hope to help continue it.
Now, are you going to be running everything over at the Performance Arts Center?
I'm going to do it all.
Okay. Well, you've had a chance
It's
to
a new
look at it.
position, so I hope to fill in where I'm needed most, and happy to do anything I'm not needed to do either. So
So you've had a chance to look at everything. What's your feeling?
I went to the Free Will Elementary School concert as well.
Okay.
Actually, I worked with some of the students for a short period. The facility is great, and the access and even the students' knowledge of it impressed me. So I know I will fit in, and I'm excited to get started, I should say.
Any other questions?
Is this your first getting your feet in with a school? You've always been with a production or a business?
I work with University of Rochester, and before that I actually worked with Finger Lakes Community College in their media lab. I oversaw 22 editing systems, worked with the students in their free periods, assisted during classes, and was the technical assistant when they did the video screen and performances at CMAC. So I'm familiar in the school environment, but never in a high school.
What do you think your first order is going to be? Have you gone through everything? You've looked at everything? We're in good shape?
I've looked at quite a bit, and it's in great shape. You guys are doing really well, and it was asked of me, what was different about the broadcast studio versus what we do at WXXI, and you guys have the motions down. The students there, they work with a teleprompter, they work with cameras, they even have, the handles on the cameras with the zoom control and the servo. They get to do green screen, they get to switch, they get to do graphics. We got to, everything that's done is the same way we do it. And they'll know the terminology, they'll know the motions. It's just possibly the cost of the equipment that's different. And, I have no doubt they're well prepared when they leave the school.
Do you see us increasing any more productions? I know that we used to have some events on television, so I didn't know if that's something that was you were discussed with you, or?
It hasn't been discussed, but I'm always happy to talk about
work with the
options
students to-
and, you
Okay.
know, what possibilities there are going to be, especially with access to media now and new media. You know, there's the possibilities are endless as to what you can do and who you can reach. We just did a live event for a new doc that I actually have been working on for the past 5 years, and for the first time we streamed it live on the internet when we premiered it on television, and we got to hear comments from people and feedback from like all around the world. We took a caller from Chile who got to watch it right when everyone in Rochester was watching it. So there's a lot of good things you can do and exciting things, and you know, the possibilities are endless, really. I mean, I don't want to sound cliche, but you know, it's fun. It's a great time, and the kids are going to have a blast. So, and media literacy is important. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but you know, in this day and age with Twitter and Facebook and all that, you know, having such a strong multimedia presence in your school is crucial. So they can see the effect and how everything kind of plays out in front of them before they kind of go off on their own into the world.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I've heard you say yours, and you guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Ours now, so get used to it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Well, I appreciate your time and getting a chance to talk to me. And you know, if you have any questions, eventually I believe I'll have a school email. And you know, never worry about reaching out and asking questions. So,
Welcome to the Wayne Central
thank you.
family.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Jeff, what's the actual start date? Mike, I can't, or somebody I know.
I'm pretty sure Monday.
There you go.
Yeah. So. I love coffee. All right.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Jeff. I'd also like to welcome Tony Carasone as our new Director of Athletics, Physical Education, and Health. Tony, come on up. Tony served as the Assistant Athletic Director and PE teacher in the Gates-Chile Central School District. In this role, he was responsible for managing events and facilities, scheduling, modified sports programs, budget, and the evaluation of coaches. He worked closely with coaches, teachers, and administrators to create a positive, supportive, healthy, and competitive atmosphere for students. During his time as an educator, Tony has worked with all levels of students. Most recently, he has been serving as assistant principal of the Paul Road Elementary School. Welcome, Tony.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited to be part of the Wayne family and contribute to their commitment to excellence.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Tony?
Tony, how familiar are you with the area? It sounds like you, and I could be wrong, I'm kind of assuming here, but you're a little bit of a West Sider. Have you had a lot of opportunity to come out to this area, this district, the county? Have you been out here much?
I attended a couple fall events this past fall. I am from the west side, from the Spenceport Gates area, so other than coming out here to see those events, I'm not that familiar with the area.
All right. Well, welcome. I think you'll love it out here. You'll find quickly how small it is, and it's a good thing out here.
I was going to say, don't feel like you've been singled out for not having been born here. I, too, was not born here. You and I may be the only ones here, but it's, you're not alone.
I wasn't born here either, Tony.
Oh.
I've just lived here forever.
Slept here.
Any other questions or comments for Tony? Tony, welcome. We look forward to working with you. We think we have a good education program. We think we have a strong athletic program. We look forward to your help in making it even better. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'd just like to let the board know that both Tony and Jeff went through a rigorous vetting and interview process. And we're very excited. We think we got two of the best people in the area right now. So we're very excited to have them on board. And as I mentioned to you guys, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but you're also welcome to leave whenever you're ready. Thank you.
At this time, let's go to the superintendent's report.
Okay, we have a series of reports today. I'm going to start with some staff and student recognition. There we go. Uh, 44 high school students were inducted into the Wayne Central chapter of the National Honor Society. Students selected as Honor Society members must have a grade point average of 90 or higher. In addition to scholarship, Honor Society members must demonstrate strength and service leadership and character. I was able to attend the inductee ceremony, which was just fantastic. I don't know if many people got to see it. Jennifer Johnson did a keynote, the anchor reporter from WHAM Channel 13. It was a great keynote. She did a great job. All 40 students' names are going to be posted on our website, so we encourage you to go there and take a look at it. Congratulations to all of those Honor Society students. We always have things going on. Ontario Elementary students collected over 20 boxes of food for the Ontario Primary Food Pantry. I was also at that building when they were stacking that food up in the principal's office, and that was quite an event. And also Freewell Elementary students collected hats. I think I'm behind schedule there. Oh, I'm one ahead, sorry. But Freewell Elementary students collected hats, scarves, and mittens for the local clothing closet as well. So congratulations to all those students in that service spirit that I think starts early in our elementary, primary buildings, and you can see ends up with many of our students in the National Honor Society. So, I mean, it's just a great spirit. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Poulin. I'd like, Mike, you to come up and introduce your staff for both of our reports. One thing that I know Jeff is going to be really, well, at least the high school is going to really appreciate getting Mike off the light board in the pack, because he's been known to flip a few switches there.
We're going to start off with Liz Green. I'm going to ask her to join me first with her presentation. Then I'll call up Tracy Don Vito for the CDOS report. As you heard, Frau Green is with us, and I believe Frau is Mrs. or
That's right.
Teacher Green. So I'll let her do the presentation to you. And if you have any questions for either of us, by all means, we're here to answer them. But tonight, I'm basically serving as her window dressing. So even though she's much better to listen to and look at than I am.
Thank you. Is it possible that the board could see the pictures as we're going
right
through
in
this?
front of
Or oh, brilliant. Thank you. I was wondering how you were pulling that off. Okay, great. So my name is Elizabeth Green. I am the German teacher, German club advisor, and German American Partnership Program coordinator for the district. I'd like to tell you this evening a little bit about the history of GAP, as well as the outcomes that we've experienced at Wayne and the future plans for GAP for the district. So GAP was started by the German and American governments back in the 1970s. They were seeking to develop and promote cultural understanding, and the goal remains the same today. Across the country, there are 800 American high schools that are partnered with high schools in Germany to carry out these exchanges. Back more than 10 years ago, Mrs. Carolyn Straub, who's pictured in the bottom right there with her group of students, initiated a program with Walderstadt. Our high school is called Johannes Kepler High School. And since then, the program has been running in Wayne every 2 to 3 years. We have traveled to Germany and then in return hosted students here as well. Our partner city, Walderstadt, as I mentioned, is outside of Stuttgart in the southwest region of Germany. The goals for GAP closely mirror the languages other than English goals set out by New York State, and I think you'll see that as we go through here. So the first portion of the goals that I'd like to speak to is developing an understanding of cultures, including one's own culture. And you'll see starting in the top left, we have students at Wayne that have actually seen and touched the Berlin Wall. And that's made possible through this exchange program. One of the greatest parts about GAP that I enjoy is that it is, it's designed by me, and I mean that not in a haughty way, but in that I can cater the program to our students, to the curriculum at this school, to the interests of the particular students that I'm leading. So in this case, we toured Berlin, And then we moved on to Potsdam, which is outside of Berlin. Part of that tour took us to the Cecilienhof Palace, which is where the Potsdam Conference was held in 1945. So our students have stood where very famous world leaders have been as well and made history-changing decisions. It's very powerful for a curriculum to come alive for a student in that way. In the top right, you'll see another exchange group who was able to travel through southern Germany, and they went to Olympia Park in Munich, where the Olympics were held. Below that, you'll see students outside of the Albrecht Dürer House, which is a museum to the famous artist and sculptor. Next, and you heard both Mrs. Dombrowski and Mrs. Woodard speak very well to this, students acquiring functional proficiency in German. There is no greater thrill for me than when students return and say, "Frau, my German works." And they get to experience this over and over again throughout the weeks of the trip. In the top left, you can see students have managed to order a meal in Germany and pay for that, even bring the receipt back to me, which is quite a feat. In the bottom left, you'll see that a group of students, as we were waiting for a tour to begin, noticed a few traditional Bavarian men in their lederhosen, and they came up to me and said, "Frau, will you come with us? We want to ask them to take a picture with us." And I said, "No, I won't go with you. That's why you're here." And they said, "Oh, Frau, we can't go without you." And I said, "You can practice with each other. I'll stand here and take a picture of you doing it." And they did it. They practiced with each other, and they scooted off, and they came back so giddy and just so excited that they were able to accomplish that they did it. And they said, "Frau, they kind of laughed at us." I said, "Well, they don't think there's anything wrong with wearing lederhosen," but it was very exciting for them. Another part of the GAP exchange that's meaningful to our students is that they get to attend school with their host sister or brother. And you can see in the top right there, our students have prepare presentations to share with the students at Johannes Kepler High School. And the presentations are meant to facilitate discussion. So right now they have pushed into a 6th grade English class, and after a short presentation, they sit down with those students and just are able to discuss. This one happened to be about holidays and how they're celebrated. So, topics that can span cultural and language barriers and really break down some of those walls. And in the bottom right, again, are some students with their exchange partners enjoying a meal together and just being authentic, learning what it means to live as a German. And finally, we provide an opportunity to develop global citizens. The students that participate in this program are provided opportunities that we just can't provide in a classroom. They're cross-curricular. They are developing skills and mindsets that will carry them through their high school, college, and careers. One example from here is in the top right corner, you'll see a student wearing a green t-shirt, Sherry Lynn there. She's a senior this year, and following her exchange experience, she spent the next year working and saving her money and planning her own trip personally to go back to Germany, which she actually did this past summer. And she spent time with her host sister and then put herself on a train and traveled to visit some of her own family in the country, which is really a remarkable thing for a high school senior to do on her own. So the upcoming trip is for the 2015-2016 school year, and we are looking to host our students again for 2 weeks at Wayne. They are partnered, the 11 German students are partnered with students at Wayne who take German. They attend classes. We plan group trips, and then the families also take them out on different trips that are, catered to that student's interests. The trips that we select support the theme for the year, and my partner teacher and I, in conjunction with our students, have chosen to focus on multiculturalism and as a subtopic, nationalism and patriotism. So we will be planning for trips that support discussion in those topics. In February of 2016, we're planning to take 11 students over to Germany for 2 weeks, where our students will be attending classes, again, taking group trips that my partner teacher coordinates, and spending time with families, just being a real German. The previous exchanges have been 3 weeks and conducted in April, so if you're familiar with the program, this February experience is a change. It's only 2 weeks this year, one of those weeks covering February break, and the week following February break. That's all I have.
to ask the board.
Ask the board if they have any questions for Liz.
Why only 11?
It is open, the GAP program is open to any student who is taking German in the high school. And the GAP program says that they must be at least enrolled in Level 2 German, so that would be our freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And so the invite goes out to any student at Wayne who has at least enrolled in German 2. The interest was high for this year, 17 students, and some of the upperclassmen found one that they had already participated, and mom and dad said, no, you're not, we're not doing that financially again. Some of them found February to be difficult with the IB programs that the classes that they were taking. So 11 is the number we came up with, and that's been about where, since I've been running it for 3 times now. The first exchange was 10 students, second one was 13, and this year's at 11.
I commend you for providing this opportunity for the students. It sounds like a great opportunity. I also want to commend you for giving up your February break and planning it so that the students would miss a minimum of school. At the same time, I assume that because these students have to go to school, or I shouldn't say have to, but are going to go to a German school, it's necessary that they miss instructional time here to be in classes in Germany when they are in session. At the same time, however, we'll probably have 100 kids who will miss your services for those 7 days. I would hope that that somehow we can make arrangements to have a certified German teacher who will be teaching the 100 kids who don't get to go. But I do commend you, especially for scheduling it so that they miss a minimum of instructional time.
Thank you. Yes, the first exchange that we planned, I did have a long-term, well, I guess small long-term, for the 2 weeks that I missed teaching. That was Carolyn Straub, former German teacher here. And the second exchange, I was actually out on a 2-year maternity leave, so there was already another German teacher in the building. So there are options for getting somebody in for the week that I'm out of the building.
Good, thank you.
Oops, sorry. I was just going to say, I studied in German in school, and oddly enough, my teacher's name was Frau Braun, so I don't know if there's a color thing going on. But, because we hosted exchange students, I actually went and lived in Germany for a summer with one of the families. I think it's great that the kids are going to school because it's so different there than it is here, and I think it's good for the kids to experience that. I would say 2 other things that I experienced that made a big impression on me was, one, at the time, I'm much older than your students, but at the time I went and played soccer, and only boys played soccer in Germany then, and I was playing here, and that was like, totally freaked them out that a girl played soccer. But I would say a professional soccer game, there's nothing, maybe an NFL game would be close to it, but I don't know. A professional soccer game in Germany is something I don't think kids here have ever experienced anything like. And the other is, I was staying outside of Hamburg, but I'm sure there are other places around Germany. To go to a city, as American kids are lucky in that they don't live in an area that's ever been through a war like countries in Europe have been through. And to go and see buildings that were actually bombed and what that means and what that looks like, I think it's an eye-opener for kids. We don't always appreciate how lucky we are. And that definitely made an impression on me when I was there as well.
That's true. Yeah, all the trips that we spend our time planning, my partner teacher and I, the students always say they love being in school the most when they go over and visit and when the German students are here.
And just because you're American doesn't mean English class in Germany is easy.
No. And vice versa.
Liz, I just wanted to follow up, kind of say the same thing Karen said. I took German class here in high school, and as Ron alluded to earlier, my grades weren't specifically outstanding. I would have found it probably far more intense, or I would have applied myself far more intensely had an opportunity like this been available when I was in school. It was very easy for me to just not care and don't take it seriously because I didn't have any reason to. So I love this idea. I love the thought of it. I've been to Germany many times. I've been to a professional soccer game at Bayern München Stadium, and there was nothing like it. I've never seen that many police on horse be firebombed. It was an interesting experience. But I also had an opportunity. I lived in Kosovo for 18 months on a United Nations trip I was on, and I lived with a German. And that is really what drove home for me how much I wish I had paid attention in school. Because I was surprised at what came back, and I was also shocked at how much more I could have known. So I think this is fantastic. I love the idea. I think it drives home the importance of not only another culture, but another language. And we don't get that here very often, so great job.
I just want to piggyback on that piece right there. Today we hosted a panel of Wayne graduates as a culminating activity for our staff development day. We have a class of 2005 Wayne Central graduate who happens to be a captain in the United States Army, who was stationed in Germany for a majority of his time, and he was one of the panelists. He kind of emphasized the importance of our LOPE programs, and he specifically referenced Germany when it comes down to their academic programs, the rigor, and then also the relevance that, you know, we strive for so much in everyday life. And the one thing that he really reiterated with our staff was, you know, his German was nothing compared to an 8-year-old German student's English. He wished he had mastered that language as much as they're pushing English in their schools. So I mean, it's just another piece to emphasize, again, the relevance, the things we can't find here in the classroom, but also the importance of competing in the global society and being somebody out there who's thinking forward. So we appreciate your consideration of this field trip request.
There's actually a policy from GAP that probably pertains to that. That's my line for parents as well.
Plus the 2 years of German.
Oh, yes.
My daughter and son-in-law both have brought kids from this school over to Europe and to Italy, and I just got to say, my hat's off to you. I know how much work it was for them, but this seems like it's well worth it. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So now joining us is Tracy Don Vito. She's going to do an overview of the New York State Seed Austin Skills Achievement Credential Program and how it's applied here at Wayne Central and the impact that it's having on our students.
Thank you. So thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight. I'm going to share with you, as Mr. Pullen said, a brief overview of the 2 new commencement credentials that apply to our students that are receiving special education services. I should start out by saying that I'm here tonight representing a group of counselors, psychologists, special education, business, and technology teachers that all started working together this summer and continue to work together throughout the school year on a regular basis to create a comprehensive plan for our students that merges the new commencement credential requirements with the programs and the services and the graduation requirements we already have in place here at Wayne. So just to give you a little background, a few years ago, the New York State Department of Education recognized that our special education students or our students with disabilities needed to be more college and career ready. So they went after creating some changes to the commencement credentials to make sure that students were prepared when they left their whichever high school they graduated from. The changes they made are actually very consistent with our emphasis here at Wayne to ensure that all of our students are college and career ready. So with that change, the state adopted 2 new commencement credentials. The credentials are for our students with disabilities who have an individualized education program, or most commonly referred to as an IEP. The 2 credentials are the 2 that are listed on the screen: the Skills and Achievement Commencement Credential, you can't say these fast, and the Career Development and Occupational Studies Commencement Credential. So it's important to note that these are credentials and not new diplomas, and that's often an area that people are confused on. So these are not new diplomas that students can get, but they are credentials. The Skills and Achievement Credential actually replaced the IEP diploma, and the Career Development and Occupational Studies Commencement Credential is a supplement that students can earn with their Regents diploma. And we're going to talk about each a little more as we go along. So whether we talk about the skills or the CDOS, and we will get in a little more in depth about both, the goal is the same, and that is to make sure that all of our students are provided an opportunity to learn and practice essential workplace skills and competencies. So ultimately, when they graduate from Wayne Central, they're prepared to go out and be employable in whatever career field they're interested in pursuing. And they're all surrounded by, and they all refer back to, the career development and occupational studies standards. So we're going to start with the skills credential. So in order for a student to earn the skills credential, the Committee on Special Education must have determined that the student has a severe disability, which makes them eligible to take the New York State alternate assessment. In addition, that student must have attended school for at least 12 years. So when we look at how that pertains to our students here at Wayne, our students working towards the credential here in our building are those students who have been placed by the Committee on Special Education in a self-contained 12-1-1 program. And so those programs that we have here in the high school, we have 2 of them. They're referred to our diversity and our project show program, and you're probably familiar with those names. So what exactly do the students have to do to earn that skills credential? So first and foremost, they have to participate in vocational placements either in our local community or in the school, and they do this for approximately 9 hours a week. They also volunteer several times per month in various parts of the Rochester community, I should say. So they do some locally, and then they do some in other parts of Rochester. They apply social and academic skills in community-based settings, and that kind of varies based on the situation. And then they develop their academic knowledge through real-world experiences. So they do a lot with recipes and cooking and looking at menus and different things with money and just product description. And again, it kind of varies based on what they have planned for each day, each week, each month. And then lastly, they employ technology to communicate with community resources, and they learn how to use that appropriately. So all of these that I touch on, so all of these things that they do are documented. Each student has a student exit summary, and that exit summary would accompany their skills credential. So that's where all of their experiences and their learning and their growth is documented. So as we shift gears to the CDOS commencement credential, this credential actually applies to most of our students that will be working towards their Regents diploma but are receiving special education services. So again, this would be the supplement. It is possible for a student to earn the CDOS credential as a standalone, but primarily here at Wayne, students will be working towards it as a supplement to their Regents diploma. So in order for a student to earn this credential, they have to meet the following criteria. So they have to have demonstrated achievement in the commencement level CDOS standards. They need to have had a developed career plan. They have to participate in a minimum of 216 hours of career and technical education coursework or work-based learning experiences, or a combination of the two. And they have to have completed at least one employability profile. So as we look to see, so who exactly are those students at Wayne that are working towards that, we have to recognize that this covers a diverse group of students in our district that are in both general education and self-contained classrooms, but are all receiving special education services. So we'd be remiss if we didn't say that we are very fortunate at Wayne that several years ago the Board of Education and our district administrators recognized the need to make our students college and career ready, and that's really where we set out and adopted that model schools plan, which allowed us to adopt some of those new graduation requirements. So the personal finance and technology requirement, and then all of those career and citizen requirements, and those are the requirements that I have highlighted in red. Because we do that, we have set our students up for success to meet that CDOS commencement credential, which is really fantastic. This summer, I was actually asked to present at a regional BOCES conference about our graduation requirements because they basically looked at it as this is what other districts should be doing so that their students could work towards the requirements. So they asked me to come and explain how it is they were started and what we do to maintain them as a district, because we are really an exemplar in the region for preparing students for college and career readiness, and then in this case, giving them a platform to be successful towards earning that CDOS commencement credential. So this is how, so if we break it down, how our students will earn the CDOS credential. It's important to note that each of our students, their plan will be altered based on their program, their services, and obviously most importantly, their needs, but ultimately they'll all do these things. So they'll complete a half-year finance and technology course with one of our business teachers. They'll complete 20 hours of community service. They'll complete an internship with one of our graduation requirements, and that'll be based on a career field of interest for them. They'll complete their senior project as a component of their English 4 class, and they'll have a choice to do it with a career focus or to not do it as a career focus, so the same as our other students. And then they'll be able to attend either a 2-year program at the Wayne Technical and Career Center in Williamson, or they could take a full-year business class here in the building or a full-year technology course here in the building. And then lastly, an employability profile will be completed on the student with either their teacher at the Wayne Technical and Career Center or with their internship coordinator. And all of those components will be reviewed and will be tracked with their career plan, and their career plan will be updated every year, so all 4 years that they're here in the high school, with their special ed case manager. And we do recognize that some of our students may need some more supports in meeting those requirements and what they need to do to earn the credentials. So one of the things that we have already done is we have taken our finance and technology course, which is typically a half-year course, and we've made it a 2-year course, and we have students based on the recommendation of their case managers and counselors, and we've put them in this class. And what makes this class a little unique compared to the half-year class is that we've combined elements of the half-year career and finance course and the internship graduation requirement, and we've spread them out to cover 2 full years, and it actually covers 7 modules, and those modules look at how you get a job, basic financial living, budgeting, and then we've built into those 2 years some career job shadows. And our goal is to get students out into the community for job shadows at least 4 times each year. So that's, again, just kind of building some extra support in for some students that need it. In addition, we recognize that students may need some additional work experiences or some different opportunities that may present themselves at the Wayne Technical and Career Center. So I've gone over very quickly a brief overview of the new commencement credentials. Again, I'd just like to thank you for giving me the time to share those with you and answer any questions that you have.
Could I just have maybe a clarifying question?
Sure.
At the beginning, you said that these programs were for kids with severe disabilities, but then you also said that some of the kids that these things apply to, some are in Regents diploma programs, some are not.
Sure.
So what I was curious about is the programs themselves seem to focus on work after school, and if some of the kids are in a Regents diploma program, is there any focus on, say, study skills or things like that for those kids that might decide to, do whatever, go to MCC or do something else instead of going directly to work?
I would say, so the skills credential is for the students with severe disabilities, and then the CDOS is for the other students. Not specifically study skills. I think indirectly those are some of the things that kids are going to get, especially when you look at the senior project requirement and you look at the internship requirement, and then even elements of the finance and tech class. But really the main focus is that college readiness and their career readiness, and making sure that they've had an opportunity to practice some of those transferable skills that it doesn't matter what career field you go into, we all just need to have and be able to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, how many students are we talking about?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't have that number. Michelle might have that number for you.
Yeah, last year we had 6 students that graduated with the skills credential, and we didn't have any with the CDOS. This year we're anticipating 3 students with the skills credential, and probably 3 with the
Thank you.
And again, I'd like to thank both Liz and Tracy for their time and their presentation, as well as Mike. Thank you, guys. At this time, I'm going to ask Greg to maybe come up to the front, and I think maybe we'll bring Jim up with you. We want to talk a little bit about the office bid process. Maybe you can kind of update the board on the status of the component of the project that we want to complete, which is the district office portion. And we also have Mr. Miller. I think you guys know Jim Wasley as well. Thank you.
So good evening. Tonight, we have, as the superintendent said, Jim Wasley. He's our construction manager from LaChase, and Bob Miller, our director of facilities. On the agenda, we're asking the board to act on the bid that was done for the district office renovations. Unfortunately, our recommendation is for the board to reject those bids at this time. As I explained in the cover memo, the project was bid as a single prime project, and SED has a threshold for single prime projects to be $500,000 or less. Our lowest bid came in at, I believe, $658,000. So at this time, we're asking the board to reject all those bids, and we're prepared to go out after tonight and rebid the project. We've revised some of the work that we were asking to be done, and we're going to be structuring the next bid so there's alternates. But I believe we're going to be going out looking for actually 4 prime contractors going forward. This way, if by chance it comes in over $500,000, then we wouldn't be in a position to have to rebid again. And be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
This was all part of the capital improvement project, correct? Or was this an additional to?
Yeah, this work, Dennis, was not initially, some of it was initially planned and some of it wasn't. We discovered, once the project had already been approved, there was some asbestos above the ceiling in the district office. Bob could probably speak better to it, but it's been cleaned before, but there was some dust that had come off the ceiling from where it was encapsulated. The district office, we already knew, had asbestos floor tile underneath the complete area. We've actually carpeted over previous carpet. We were fearful of taking up the old carpet because it would lift up the asbestos tiles. The window work, the district office is slated as part of the high school to get all new windows. That part of the job was included in the project, but the discovery of the asbestos happened after the project had been approved, and once we got far enough along and the budget was able to support doing this work, we thought it was prudent to do it all at one time, remove all the asbestos, clean it up, and actually restructure the layout so that if by chance the high school ever takes over that space, the reconfigured district office will be an extension of the high school with a hallway and then rooms on either side. So it'd be easy for a future transition if that were to happen.
So I'm just curious, if the windows were already part of the original bid, why are we rebidding the windows?
Well, we took ownership of the windows, Karen, so we have windows on site. So part of this project would be to install the windows that we're providing, and we are in the process of negotiating a credit because the current contractor isn't going to be responsible for installing those windows or abating them. So we will be having a credit come back in front of the board as a change order for that work.
Okay,
So
yeah, I
it
was
was-
just because it exceeded the $500,000 limit, and that's kind of where I was coming from,
Yes.
is if it's already part of something else and it's excluded from this, maybe we wouldn't
It's a great question.
have the
Yeah.
problem.
Mhm.
This project was supposed to be basically going right now originally, wasn't it? In
Yes.
December? And what does this do to the time frame?
This is, well, the district has plans to relocate to OE on a temporary basis. Bidding this next month in January, mobilizing, it's going to be completed May 22nd is the drop dead date for substantial completion on the district office. At that point, they can reoccupy.
Any other questions regarding what we need to do? I'm going to turn this over to Ron, because we'll need an action on this to reject those bids, and then, as I said, we'll be out rebidding, trying to get ourselves back on track.
Can I get a motion to reject bids? Matt, can I get a second? Tim, any discussion? All in favor of rejecting the bids? Any opposed? Thank you.
I'm not sure, but Ron just asked for a motion to rebid. I think we should. That's a good catch.
Okay. Could I get a motion to rebid the district office? Carla, a second? Pam, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Seat for a second. We're gonna go over a couple other things.
Yeah.
Next, we wanted to engage in a discussion on the Office on the State Comptroller's Corrective Action Plan, which was brought before the Audit Committee and reviewed in the Audit Committee. And we also need action to accept that plan tonight so that we can respond to the Office on the State Comptroller. So we have several Audit Committee members that were also at the board, and I think Jerry is still here. So we can answer any questions that you may have. The action plan was modified based on conversation and suggestions at the Audit Committee, so we think we have it in a good spot.
Can I get a motion to approve the corrective action plan? Dennis, can I get a second? Tim, any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next on the list, we wanted to share with the board the budget calendar. The budget calendar has gone through the Communications Committee. I think Jeremy also may, I understand, maybe have a few words to say about it. I will say on the front end of the budget preparation calendar, I think you'll see, if you've reviewed it, that we have some unique changes in this calendar which allow for different levels of input. But I'll let Jeremy, if you'd like to speak to it a little bit.
Right, now?
Sure. Oh, well, I don't know if you want to have a motion first, Ron, and then discuss?
Why don't we go for a motion first? Can I get a motion to approve the budget? Karen, a second? Phil? Okay, now questions and discussion.
Yep.
The Communications Committee met tonight. We want to make this budget calendar, the budget process this year, more inclusive to community members to be able to put input in. So there will be a budget survey that will be electronic, posted on the 16th of December. We ask anybody who is a stakeholder in the district to feel free to fill it out. The closing date on that will be the 8th of January. We will compile the data, and we are scheduling a roundtable for discussion to discuss the budget on January 15th at 7 o'clock, tentatively for the media center at the middle school. And that will be to discuss the results that we get from our survey from the community, and also time to answer any questions or take any input from the community at that time as well. So we just want to be a little more open
think you said the survey goes out December 16th, but I thought you just said the public discussion was December 15th.
January 15th, sorry. So those are the changes that we made. We added those dates.
And as you review the budget calendar, hopefully you'll see that we have kind of a parallel process working that we need to bring together. And we're starting conversations within the district, I think in a much more transparent way with our administrative council to discuss their interests, their needs in terms of budget issues. And on the outside, from a community perspective, as we say, we're going to do some surveying prior to the roundtable in January. We'll get together on the roundtable and we have some hard conversation on priorities, and hopefully from some of the feedback from the survey will help guide the discussion at the roundtable, and then merge those together at the end of the month with the internal conversations on the budget and the community conversations, and then go back to a workshop with the board, I think on February 5th, where we'll kind of bring all that information back to the board and start some hard, hopefully at that time, Greg will have some models that are based on that we'll be able to discuss from the board perspective and see how that budget then overlays with our revenues funding. We hope to have better firm numbers from the state for revenues as well as expenses on TRS and ERS and those types of things. So this budget calendar is a little different than you probably had in the past. It's pushed back a little bit so that we can have the best numbers possible at the February workshop for board discussion and then combined input. So again, if anyone has any other questions or thoughts, we're happy to entertain them. I give a lot of credit to Jeremy and the Communications Committee because we moved pretty quick through this, and it's a great vehicle. We were thinking of doing it from the district perspective, but because the Communication Committee is already up and going, I think it was a great vehicle that we had established to help facilitate this, and I think it's going to work. So I appreciate the quick response on the Communication Committee, because I know we gave them a lot of information over the last week.
I'd just like to, because I know we tried to get more public input last year on the budget, and I would say we were less than successful in getting the amount of input that we were looking for. When we have the communications meeting, I would just suggest we might want to go above and beyond as far as advertising that in the local papers, et cetera, because if I remember last year, we had exactly one person show up. So I think it was Mr. Myler. So, or maybe it was Mr. Reynolds, I'm not even sure. So I would, because we do want that input, we need to get people to actually show up to give us the input.
And that's what I know Amy had said, that our district Facebook page is generating a lot of interest in things that are going on. So it'll be there as well at newspapers, the website, so it'll be advertised. So we had the discussion tonight. We want the community there. But if the community is comfortable in not showing up, that might not be a bad thing for us. But we do want as many people as would like to show up to give input and ask questions to be there, because this is the first time in this is my third year that we've actually welcomed the community to give their 2 cents of what we're doing, and not just showed up.
And the community, even if they didn't want to come, they will have the opportunity to fill out the survey as well.
Yeah, I think that's another great point. So just as with the same amount of intensity they want to encourage people to come to the meeting, we want them just as much to fill out the survey, and we might get better response. So we're going to do some type of blitz to make sure they're aware where the survey is and how they can get access to it.
Well, and I think also to make people aware that although the vote is in May, getting the input mid-April is really too late, that this time frame of, December, January, February is when we really need to have the input in order to be able to act on it.
I suspect that survey will go around like wildfire in this community. I know that the superintendent one has just spread all over. I mean, everyone's, I can't believe how many times I've heard about it already, and it's been out for like 3.5 minutes. It's so good around.
Yeah, Amy has told us we have some amazing hits on the system. Did you? 2,500 hits and 33 shares, and like you said, that's only been out a couple days.
A share, Amy, is when they actually fill out the survey?
No, the shares when they post it on their page or another page, so other people can see it.
Thank you.
I think our
I'm glad to see this portion on the calendar for the budget. I've been a proponent of that for a couple years now, making sure we try to include the community and earlier as possible. The survey's a good way. I think we're working towards that, getting the information from people that have the chance. Hopefully, they'll use this chance and give us the information they'd like to give us so that we can use it in developing a good budget. So I'm happy that we have this on our calendar for input. So, thank you.
Speaking for myself, I'd like to second what Tim said. I think as a board, we've clearly demonstrated the goal of reaching out to the community and being receptive to the community, and that this is another way of demonstrating that commitment. So thank you for your work in that area. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, could we have a motion to approve the budget calendar? Jeremy, do we have a second? Pam, any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Okay. Before we go on to board business, I believe we have some students in the audience who may need to have papers signed. We also, Mr. Pullen says that most of you have lots of homework to do, and we do not wish to keep you any later than necessary. So if you'd like to come up and get your papers signed, we'll get you out of here and you can go home and do your homework. Okay, can we go to the first reading of policies 1511, 3230, 4240, 4320, and 8271? Would anyone from the policy committee like to talk to those policies? Karen?
I will, and I'm sorry, I'm catching up on some of it right here while we're doing it. 1511 is pretty straightforward. It's just a list of the general order of things that we'll discuss at board meetings, and we've actually, that will now match the way we've done the last couple of board meetings. 3230 is a complaint process. We just made a minor change to that. The 4240 regarding the relationship between the superintendent and the board, and I believe
That goes down to
there's just a minor change in there as well, regarding a reference to New York State law. For 4320, go back to that one, is, I'm sorry, that was 4320, 4340, go back to. At 4320 was the superintendent and Board of Education relations, and 4240 was the evaluation of the superintendent and other administrative staff, and there was a reference added in that into the fact that the administration evaluations needed to be done annually. And there was no time reference in that one prior to this. And for the final one, which is 8240, that is driver education and gifted intelligence and physical education. And there was also, I think, just a minor change to make to that one as well. So those are there for your review, and you can get any feedback to us then if there are any changes that are required, we can put that forth. I think, Jeremy, you already sent in one question about a minor word change in one of them. One word, yep.
Are there any other questions for Karen at this point? We don't have to have a motion to accept first reading, do we? We have it down as an action, but yeah. Okay. Can we go to second reading of policy 5230. Karen? Sure, we'll come back to it. Let's go on to the change orders. Greg, would you like to speak to the change orders, please?
Yes, on tonight's agenda, we have for you, I think there's 12 change orders for the board's approval. I don't know what your pleasure is, if you want me to go through them one at a time, or just open it up to the board for questions. You have copies of all of them in your packet. Everything that we're asking to be approved is, keeps us within our budget. Change orders are a normal process of any construction project. You know, our project was basically the first summer we did some work, but the bulk of 70% of the work occurred in the second summer. So it's not unusual to see change orders coming through, you know, at this time. Obviously, it's always a goal to have as few change orders as possible, but in every project I've ever been involved with, I mean, change orders are inevitable. So, rather than go through them all one at a time, I'll open it up for any questions, if that's okay.
Okay, Carla?
Greg, being that Mr. Myler's still here, and I did have a question about the electric lights. These were the lights that were in, like, the counseling area that were tossed by
The lights that
accident?
were tossed were in the main, the high school main office.
Oh, the main office, okay. I knew it was over there somewhere. And we have gotten that money back, or we're withholding it?
So the change order that's on tonight's agenda is a deduct change order against the general contractor, who the asbestos abatement is a subcontractor to the general contractor. And I believe the question that came up was, back in September, the board approved EC2 for the electrical contractor to replace the lighting for the fixtures that were erroneously thrown away by the abatement contractor. And also included in that change order, there was some additional work that we asked to be done. Mr. Pullen, initially when we had the project planned, we were replacing the carpet, we were renovating the main office, and replacing the carpet in the main office up to the, where the safe is, due to budget constraints. Once the bids came in and we had some flexibility in the budget, Mr. Pullen suggested that it makes sense if you're in the high school office suite, you know, the guidance area, as well as where Mrs. Don Vito and their conference room, it's all one continuous stretch. So he requested that we replace the carpet throughout. It just made sense that it would all, because it was all installed at the same time. And at the same time, we also added lights, changing out lights in the conference room of the main office, as well as the 6 or 7 guidance offices that are there. Those additional lights and the cost to change the lights that were, to replace the lights that were thrown away were included in EC2. The cover memo that explained that didn't talk about the additional lighting. So now on GC19, there's a $9,500 credit that represents the cost of the lights that were thrown away. The balance of that $17,000 change order was owner requested additional work done.
Wouldn't it have been more clear to have a single credit issued that showed it plainly, and then have another change order for the additional work? I think it would have been a lot cleaner. Yeah, this question wouldn't exist if that had happened, I'm sure.
You're right, Matt. At the time, the way we get our bulletins from the architect, we log them in their system for change management and by bulletin. But at that time, breaking that up would have been much clearer, and we wouldn't have this confusion at the point. You're correct. The good news is, or the additional news is, as far as EC2 goes, as far as change order goes, the architect and the construction manager, we do add additional language to a cover sheet that goes to SED that will clarify this. That's important to know also, because SED does an audit process thoroughly to make sure, first of all, it's justified, and second of all, we get our aid that we're due on the But it's a good catch. You're correct, it is confusing. I don't know how to resolve this. to make it-
In other words, it's too late to fix.
I don't think we did anything wrong, it's just the way we interpreted it.
Right.
I think what I'm saying is, as far as the cover sheet going to SED, that will clarify it, because I'm sure they would do the same thing, kick it back to us for more information, wondering why this is that, because they do a very good job auditing the project at the end of the job. But I'm not disputing that it's confusing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly, because I don't have the ECW 2.
EC2.
EC2. We were supposed to get, I think it was mentioned something like in the ballpark of a credit of 17K back, and instead we're getting 9.5. And the difference is we used some of that credit that was coming back to do some more work, right? Is that in?
No. The way EC2 was worded, it was understandable for the board to assume that you would get all that money back.
Okay.
And now, when the credit's coming through for less than the amount of EC2, the question is, why the difference?
Right.
And the explanation to the difference is, EC2 included replacing the lights that were erroneously thrown out, but also some additional work. And when the electrical contractor gave us the proposal, they included all that work as one lump. We did not break it out, and obviously now at this later time, I agree, it could have been clearer had we broken it out, but we processed the change order the way the proposal came in from the electrical contractor.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, the district's not losing out any money, but it's just not as clear as we would
Right.
like it to be.
Right, all right.
Absolutely agree.
Greg, on a number of the change orders, and I don't remember which ones, but on some of the change orders, it will say something like unforeseen circumstances or owner's request. But on a number of them, 2 or 3 of them, there's no reason given. Can you talk as to the reason for the change order there where there's no reason given?
Yeah, I think the ones you're referring to, Ron, I know for a fact 2 of them are for the plumber. In the project, we had planned on replacing the water main in the high school. And,
Correct, that's one of them I remember.
Right. And, you know, there's always some preliminary work that goes on by the architects to walk through and kind of make recommendation of what work needs to be done and what doesn't. And at the time, we're also worried about, we had budget concerns that, because I think the amount of work we had done that we were planning on doing, we were afraid that it was going to come in over what we had budgeted. So 2 of the change orders tonight from the plumbing contractor are for them to change all the connections out that connect to the new main. I mean, in a perfect world, if you put in a new main, you want all the connections that go into it to be new also, because they're probably as old as the main was that we're replacing. Just not an easy area to get down into, and due to cost constraints, we didn't originally plan on doing that, but like I said, once the bids come in, and if the bids come in and you have some flexibility in your budget, it's work that makes sense to do. So unfortunately, you're doing it in a change order environment instead of a competitive bid environment. I mean, you know, the cost is never quite as good like that, but, you know, sometimes you can't always predetermine that at the beginning of a bid process. I'm trying to think, Ron, I think GC 25, I didn't bring that memo with me, but I thought.
There was one about concrete outside the
Yes.
D-wing,
yes.
I think.
Yes, and that actually, that concrete over the past 5 or 6 years is heaved, similar to what's happened in the concession stand. And basically, our guys had to go and pretty much chisel it so that we could use the doors to get into the D-wing entrance of the high school, which then created an uneven surface, so obviously we wanted that to be corrected. Now, that concrete was put in 1992, but still similar heaving conditions to what we've experienced at the concession stand. So that was taken out, there was better drainage installed, or I don't think there was drainage before, there was drainage installed to help alleviate any further heaving, and then re-poured.
The other question I had, Greg, is a couple of the change orders deal with the work that had to be done to make the concession stand whole. By paying those change orders, does that in any way affect our ultimate liability or?
Yeah, that's a great question. At the very beginning of the concession stand process, when we encountered all the issues, we've been working with our school attorney through that process. And initially, we were actually holding some payment to, like, the architects, looking for resolution to that issue. Knowing that resolution was going to be a long time coming, his recommendation was that we should not hold payment for work that's been performed, because then we'd be in violation of our contract with some of the people working on the project. So he said it's a much better avenue to pay those invoices that are due and seek restitution at the end of the process. So the things we're asking the board to approve tonight on the change orders, those contractors, the plumber, the electricians, they really had no liability for what's gone on at the concession stand. We have not processed any of the Welliver requests for additional money for the work that's gone out there. And we're now prepared, because we now have a cost for everything that took place out there to get it to the state that it's in now and acceptable for our usage. And now we're going to start the process of sitting down with the involved parties and trying to work out a resolution. And the superintendent's already laid out a process he wants to follow. We're going to have a meeting and hope we can find resolution. And if not, then we'll take it to other channels.
But I earlier sent you an email, and we discussed that a little while ago, about the contracts and having language in them for errors and omissions. Who is going to be responsible for looking into that and enforcing that, if that's the case, that they should be covered under that? Any of these change orders, or the concession stand, which seems to me might fall under that, and EC5 here, it plainly says it was omitted from the drawings. When they omit or make an error, omissions especially, that's an unfair bidding advantage, and somebody that may have included it and saw that would have a higher price because they did include that. So that can't be used as an excuse that we would have to pay it anyhow. That's not right.
When we say, Matt, that it's been omitted from the drawings, actually it was work that we wanted done that didn't end up on the architectural drawings. So it wouldn't be bid on by one contractor, not another, because they didn't know we wanted the work done, because they go by what's on the drawings.
Right.
So if somebody were to say, well, that's on the drawings and I didn't include that in my price, that's why we have a meeting with the lowest responsible bidders before we award the bids to say, are you comfortable with your number? Because there have been instances where contractors have made a mistake, and they'll actually say, I'd like to withdraw my bid because I can't, that mistake might be more than they can absorb. But if it's left off the drawings, even though we wanted the work done, that's really more of an architectural piece.
That's an omission.
Yeah, that's an omission, that's correct.
Yep.
That's correct. I can't speak for the architects. I know that with this concession stand process, they've already contacted their insurance company. I'm sure they have coverage for that type of stuff. When it gets to something that we say we wanted that's not on the drawings, the discussion comes up about the whole communication process. Did they really know? Did they not know? And there's a lot that goes into that. But
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
I understand
that
the
it needs
point.
to be looked at very closely,
Yep.
especially the language used in the contract and whether there is coverage and whether they're using it or just kind of pushing it off on us because there's a deductible involved and they don't want to
Right.
have that.
And, that's a conversation that we can have with our school attorney to make sure that, we look at that before we proceed.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen.
Greg, and it's my understanding that Clark Patterson has still not been named architect for this year.
That's correct.
We do not have an architect?
We do not have an architect of record. I mean, Clark Patterson is still under contract with the project that we're working on.
Right.
But the board has not named them as the school architect for this school year.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Greg?
Just one. On this whole project, who oversees the end results and gets back to us and say, yes, this was performed, this is correct? I mean, who actually oversees the very end? I do. Okay. And everything so far has been satisfactory, other than these few little things that we have? I mean,
Oh,
I know
no.
there were some problems.
Not at all. No, Dennis.
Okay, well, that's what I
no,
want to
that's-
find out. I mean,
That's why we're here. you know, Chase with the district along with Clark Patterson, at the end of the job, once we, when we opened up school, that was our goal at the end of the summer, our 45 days of work and opening school. We completed the work under contract. It's interesting. The contractors are responsible to come to us with the work completion list saying this is what we have to complete, and then they request a punch list inspection by the architect and the CM. That did happen. We performed a punch list, and we issued the punch list of 214 pages 2 weeks ago to all the contractors, and currently we're meeting with the owners of the companies, and we're scheduling all this work to be completed by the end of the year. So the detail work that you may be thinking of, the little things that, you know, you may hear about, I'm sure that's on our punch list. If not, Bob and I are daily shooting photographs to each other via phone or email to add to our list, or we would call it a warranty log once we get substantial completion, because obviously once we get substantial completion, they have a 12-month warranty period that they need to you know, hold up to.
Well, one of the things I've heard complaints on is the balance of heat in the middle school. Have you guys heard anything about that, where the temperatures have been varying quite a bit?
I have not.
There has been we put all new controls in that
Right,
building.
yep,
As
no, I
part,
know.
that was part of the energy performance contract. We are having troubles in a couple areas, but as far as temperature swings, all those thermostats we now have set at 70.
And they're working fine now.
Yeah, but the staff is not used to 70. I mean, in the past, maybe the rooms were 75,
Okay.
76, so there's a little bit of a
Learning
I guess
curve.
if that's what you want to call it.
Comfort adjustment.
Comfort adjustment's probably a better word for it.
And
said.
we got, now is the alarm system all working correctly now? I mean, I know we
Yes.
had a couple little problems there too.
Yep, we're all set there.
Okay, perfect.
Are there any other questions for Greg or Bob or Jim?
Well, thanks for telling us about your punch list, because that makes me feel a little better that there's actually a nice little tracking system going on. I figured there had to be, though. No, that,
And really, just to speak a little bit about the process, I mean, there's multiple sets of eyes that are on it. The architect comes out, they walk the project, they look at the work that's been done, they create a list. Jim walks the project, he does that. Bob Miller probably walks more than anybody else. I mean, because of the project and because of his duties as our director. We've also directed all the custodians, if, you know, they're obviously aware of the work that's been done in their buildings. If they see things that aren't right, they report to Bob. So it's a very encompassing, you know, but, you know, you're looking at $15 million worth of work, so things can be missed. So the more set of eyes, the better. And, you know, luckily, I mean, we have the ability to add stuff if it's discovered. But we usually have a pretty good handle on, like that wall over there, when they taped for the asbestos, you know, the tape they used tore the paint off the wall. And, you know, so we usually have a pretty good handle on that stuff. But it's pretty encompassing, though.
Any other questions? I would just say, having been through a couple of construction projects, but on the other side of the table, I think this is probably as few change orders as I've ever seen connected with a construction project. It's easy to lose sight of that sometimes, but could we get a motion to accept or approve the change orders? Let's see, Carla and Dennis for the second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to accept the auditor's report. We have here a copy of Ray Wagner's audit. Does anybody have any questions for Greg or for John at this point? Anyone? I have just one on, there's a summary at your,
I think Greg distributed that electronically.
It was included in the board packet?
In the board packet.
electronically, I just.
Yeah.
I can get hard copies if the board wants it, but,
No, I thought you told me that you had hard copies to distribute.
well, I had some, and just not enough for everybody.
Misunderstood. Okay.
Do you want to talk to it from the audit committee viewpoint?
Unless anybody's got any questions.
I just had one. On page 40 of the report, John, it talks about, Ray talks about unforeseen, how do you word it? In essence, he says there's a couple of lawsuits that he can't predict the cost value.
Right. On page 40, the first lawsuit, I can share with the board, has been settled with no cost to the district. It was a mutually agreed upon settlement, which I think is good news. The second, I think, is referring to a special ed lawsuit that we're involved in. We won the lawsuit, we won we won the arbitration. The parents were not comfortable with the arbitration, so they are now challenging that. So we've talked with our attorneys, and we're working to either try to settle it, or we feel we also have according to our attorneys, in good position if they go back to court. We'd just kind of like to bring some closure to it, because I think first of all for the student, second of all for the, for cost. But I think so the first one is resolved at no cost. The second one is kind of ongoing, and we'll know. It hasn't cost us any money at this point. Insurance has taken care of attorney fees, and because we won. So if we move forward, though, we've kind of expended the amount of attorney fees that the insurance company will cover, so we'll be out of pocket for us as well to defend the appeal. So again, we're talking very closely with the attorneys about the best way to handle that, and I think, so in answer to the question, the first one's resolved, no cost to district. Second one's kind of ongoing. We're still working on it. We'll obviously update you when we know exactly what's going on. I can answer any questions if you have on it.
John, I have one. I don't know, I would have not brought this up. You did, so if you can't say anything else, that's fine. But you said the first one was resolved at no cost to the district.
Yes.
Can you expand upon that at all?
Well, a party involved withdrew their lawsuit.
And when did that occur?
I think I sent that to the board. That was.
Oh, I know the answer.
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking it was October. They actually withdrew the lawsuit early on. We waited until all the paperwork was actually on file in Monroe County Clerk's office, which I think was maybe beginning of November.
And they, do you know why they did? They did it on their own free will?
Yes, they withdrew the lawsuit. Nobody was twisting their arm. I believe they withdrew the lawsuit because they feel that the board and the district is moving in a positive direction.
That's the answer I wanted on record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, can we get a motion to accept Ray Wagner's audit report? Matt, a second. Phil, any discussion? Any further discussion, I should say? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next on the agenda is some budget transfers. Greg?
I don't actually have the transfers in front of me, but going from memory, I believe the majority of them, if not all of them, are salary codes. A couple of them are with the special ed department. Based on students moving into the district, we had to add 2 sections for our special ed students, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong. One at the middle school, one at Ontario Elementary. We're also moving some money in some teacher aid codes to support those special ed students. When we create the budget, we put the money in the building that the aid currently is in, and by the time the next school year comes, there's a lot of movement. They've done annual reviews and stuff, so sometimes it does require us to move money so it follows the students. Another one was in the area of technology. Mr. Harris had retired, and we replaced him with I believe 2 individuals, plus we added a help clerk person. So it's just, restructuring and moving the resources where they're needed.
Thank you, Greg. Can I get a motion to approve the budget transfers? Pam, a second? Karen? Any discussion or further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Yep. Policy 5230, thank you.
Sorry, somebody help me get organized. This is a very simple one. This is an acceptance of gifts, grants, and bequests, and it previously said that they all had to be signed by the board president and the superintendent. We changed it to or so that we could get those out quickly regardless of who happened to be around to sign them. So that was a pretty simple one.
Looking at this pile of documents that have to be signed tonight by the board president, I appreciate that policy immensely. Can I get a motion to approve it? Karen, a second. Pam? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Still thank you. Okay, consent agenda. We amended the agenda to pull 2 names from the personnel file. Can I get a motion to approve Nicole Welch and Jay Marino as spring sports supervisors? Phil, a second. Tim, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Dennis and I are abstaining because one is my daughter and the other is his son-in-law. And that's the reason for our abstentions. Under the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the superintendent's consent agenda? Carla, a second. Karen, any discussion? All in favor? Phil's abstaining. Opposed? Oh, okay. Abstaining? Phil's abstaining because he was absent from the meeting for the minutes. Okay, committee reports. Communications, Jeremy?
As we mentioned earlier, we've made the date for the budget survey to go out on the 16th of December, to be due back from community members on the 8th of January. Our next communications committee meeting is on the 8th of January. It's open to the public. We're fast, we're quick, we get in and out. And, yeah, we stick by we absorbed the 15 minutes you guys went over. And we got out early. But, and then our community roundtable for, community input to the budget is scheduled for January 15th, tentatively the middle school library, or media center, at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions for Jeremy? Matt, Audit Committee?
Yeah, we met on December 4th and received the 2014 external audit by Ray Wager, which was presented to the board tonight for acceptance. This report will now be forwarded to the state. We reviewed the corrective action plan for the 2014 OSC audit and added verifiable goals to the corrective action plan, and the amended or modified CAP was also presented to the board and accepted tonight. And since Ray Wager was present, we also had a brief discussion about our options for planning ahead to prepare for Wayne County sales tax discontinuance. And our next meeting will be December 18th at 4:30 p.m. Note the change in time at the district office conference room. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? Policy, Karen?
We met today and we discussed policy 7410, which is on extracurricular activities, 8241, which is on patriotism, citizenship, and human rights education, and 8242, which is on civility, citizenship, and character education, interpersonal violence prevention education. We also had quite a lengthy discussion on facilities naming, and all of those will hopefully be coming for first reading at the next board meeting. And we had so much to do, we ran over 15 minutes into Jeremy's meeting.
Thank you, Karen. I was thinking the same thing. I wish we only ran 15 minutes over. Any questions for Karen? Under Board President comments, I would like to extend condolences on behalf of the Board of Education to Susan Brewer and Kathy Lamanna. Both Susan and Kathy are teachers in the district, and their father, Robert Coyle, recently passed away. We've also received a letter from the Williamson veterans thanking Betsy Hennessy and her class for materials that they presented and prepared for their Veterans Day dinner. And our board clerk has been kind enough to prepare a letter, so we will be sending a letter to Betsy thanking her for that effort on behalf of the veterans. There is a four-county meeting coming up on the 18th. It's titled The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Obviously, based upon its title, it has to do with state aid. It's in Newark, so if any of you are interested in attending, it's going to begin at 6:45, and the guest experts are Julie Marlette, who is the New York State School Board's Director of Governmental Relations, and Brian Fessler, who is the New York State School Board's Governmental Relations Representative. So if any of you are interested in attending, I know some of us will have the Audit Committee meeting that night and will conflict, but I would also like to piggyback on what Matt and Pam said about the benefits of going to the four county school boards. I know it's another night out, and I know how busy everybody is, but I've been to two of their presentations so far, and both times, I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's by design, but both times I've been at a table with board members who have recently gone through the superintendent selection process. And both times I've been able to pick up what I think are some pretty valuable hints about the process. So I would encourage you, if any of you are available, to attend the four county school boards. And then lastly, or not lastly, but next to last, I would like to extend congratulations to the girls' basketball team. I don't know if you folks read the sports section of the paper as much as I do, but they were ranked 10th in the preseason basketball pool in their division. And their first game, they happened to play Pittsford Mendon, which was ranked 6th, and our girls beat Pittsford Mendon. So it'll be interesting to see where they're ranked coming up. I can imagine. I can imagine, yes.
You should be the one ribbon. That's kind of what the discussion was. What are we growing out here?
And I understand that we did that without one of our better players who was out with an ankle injury. But anyhow. And then lastly, I think you've seen the results of the self-assessment that we did through the New York State School Boards Association. One of the things that I picked up on, well, two things, budget, and you've heard the changes that we've already made in the budget calendar, so I feel very good about the direction we're going there. And then the second thing is orientation of new board members, and I got to thinking about that, and basically we're all new. And so I've asked Dennis and Pam to sort of take notes during the school year and to keep a log of some things that they wish they had been told before they came on the board, so that in the spring somehow we will try to set up a program to orient if we have, and I hope we don't, but if we have new school board members next year. So that's all I have for tonight. I thank you. Can I get a motion for adjournment, or do you have something, John?
Actually, I do have one thing before you adjourn, because I'm sorry, but earlier this evening, we had a compliment on the setup of the board, the board setup. And I do want to take a minute, because it's been an evolving process, to thank Kathy Reeds, Amy, who's kind of indulged me. Every week I'd come up with something a little different. Barb Held's group, and special thanks to Chris Miller over there, who seemed every day, can we do this, can we do that? I still have a few more ideas, but I think we're setting ourselves up real well for a future opportunity to either video stream live our board meetings or get them on Channel 6 with Jeff joining us. I think we're going to look into some of those possibilities, but I think we're starting to get in that position. Someone's got to help me. I can't believe I can't remember the gentleman's name, but we even had from our tech department. Yeah, Mr. Eagle. He was just great. on his own jumped in, so that can make some cases for you guys, and, because we move this stuff in and out. But these guys do a great job, and kind of take it for granted when we come here. It looks really, it's really nice, but a lot of work goes into putting it up and tear it down. So I just wanted to thank you guys. I've really never had a chance to, so that just kind of brought it to my attention. I knew I'd forget if I didn't, so thank you. I'm all set.
Okay. And I think Jeremy started the motion for adjournment. Do I have a second? Matt? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you all. Good night. Have a Merry Christmas.